is where your heart is. We hope you enjoy this romantic short story. You can now listen in the background with your screen switched off. Please check the description for details. It was a weekend, and so there was little to divert Emma's mind from the thought that it was her 40th birthday. Gemma, her sister, had apparently forgotten it. Although earlier, she hadn't missed the opportunity to mention casually of Emma's grey hair. Of course Emma knew of them. But it did not matter. At least that's what she had said to herself on first noticing them. Nothing like that had mattered since she had received that terrible phone call many years ago. She had lost Phil, her fiancé, and that call had changed her world forever. To Emma, it just didn't matter if all her hair turned grey. She felt it's much like her life, grey and lusterless. However, that was no reason why people should forget her birthday. Even Adrian had forgotten it. It was the first birthday in 5 years that he had not sent her roses. But then she thought, she shouldn't think about such things at all. Nobody cared whether a teacher of English at the Clifton was 40 or 60, as long as she was good at what she did. But even that reflection did not help her forget that she was now 40. That fact kept popping up again and again in her mind. 40 did sound so much older than 39. And yet there was still so much of life ahead to be lived. A life of being a drab teacher, to students who didn't care any less. She wasn't normally such a remorseful person, but the arrival of 40 does do things to one's mind. She had been very conscious of its approach for some weeks. For the past 5 years, Adrian had been religiously proposing to Emma on her birthday. This year, she wondered that if after all these years, she should finally give in. In her mind, she thought she will always be faithful to Phil and his memories. And now, well, she would be faithful in a way. As somebody had said, it couldn't really be considered unfaithful to make the best of what life offered. Besides, Adrian and she had always been the best of friends ever since their high school days. She could never, she believed, give him the love that got buried in the grave with Phil. But real companionship meant something too. She had decided that this year, she would graciously accept his proposal. She found herself looking forward to his happiness. It would be wonderful to make him happy, even if she could be nothing more than just contented. It was, of course, impossible, she thought, for her ever to love anybody again. But there were substitutes. When Adrian dropped in rather late that evening, he did not, however, bring any roses. Emma had seen him coming up the street with Alfie loping at his heels. Evidently, she was to be the fag end of his evening's hike. She sighed a little and went forward to accept her destiny and Adrian. But an hour later Emma was feeling decidedly let down. Adrian did not seem to have the slightest intention of proposing. Instead, he rested comfortably on the sofa and talked of all manner of things. Alfie, his little dog, lay on the floor at Emma's feet with his head on her shoe. Emma loved Alfie, but as the time wore on, she felt inclined to pull her foot away and let Alfie look for another pillow. After a while, Adrian suddenly became silent and Emma perked up a bit. Perhaps his annual proposal was coming after all. The first signs were emerging as usual. Adrian cleared his throat, uncrossed his legs and crossed them again. So far, pretty much normal. But Adrian was nervous, which was a bit unusual. Did he now feel that things had drifted long enough? Adrian finally spoke.
I've really come to ask a favor, Emma. A big favor.
This was anew. Emma pricked up her ears. But she did not pull away her foot from Alfie's head. He was such a darling dog. Of course, if it's in my power.
Oh, it's in your power, all right. In fact, you are just the person. You have such a great taste.
Was the man going to ask her to pick him a suit or something? He couldn't be proposing. Emma did not still pull her foot away, but she jerked it. Alfie moaned a protest in his sleep.
I've bought a house. And I'd like. Would you mind helping me do the interior design?
So it was a proposal after all, and Emma smiled to herself. It was to be baited with a house this time. Fancy Adrian buying a house, the poor darling. As if she would accept him for a house. How clever he thought of himself. And how useless it all was when she had already made up her mind to accept him this year. I'm not sure, Adrian. I'm afraid I don't know much about interior design.
Oh, you know more than you give yourself credit for. If I do it, I'm sure I'll botch it all up. I will probably end up mixing up all different styles, and the end result would be such a nightmare.
But Adrian, my taste mightn't suit you.
Oh, it would. I'm sure it would. I know Anita will love anything you select.
Anita. Emma pulled away her foot and Alfie woke up. He looked at her disapprovingly and then went over and sat down beside Adrian. His expression said, I am fond of you, Emma, but if there's to be a difference of opinion between you and Adrian, you might as well know at once where I stand. Who is Anita?
Oh, how silly of me. I forgot to mention. I met her last Christmas when I went down to my parents in Somerset. She's lovely, Emma. And I think she's the one. We have decided to move in together, that's why the house.
Emma had had enough time to recover from her surprise. What else? Anybody would be surprised by such an unexpected piece of news. Emma laughed a little. She did not laugh often, but when she did, her laughter was generally beautiful. It did not sound exactly beautiful just now, but Adrian was in no condition to notice that. This is a real birthday surprise, Adrian.
Oh, it is your birthday. I'm so sorry, Emma, I'd forgotten. My head's been occupied with this house buying and all.
Don't be. I understand. You couldn't be expected to remember birthdays under the circumstances. Besides, I am not that excited about turning 40, to be honest with you. But your news, now that's got my breath. I'm so glad to hear it. As your old friend, I wish you all the happiness in the world. But you could have told me before, I think. I really do.
There wasn't anything to tell. That was till just a few days ago. I mean, it wasn't settled. You are the first one I've told. I knew you'd be glad. As you may imagine, I wasn't going to keep on being silly forever. But we'll always be good pals, Emma, won't we?
Naturally. I couldn't see us being anything else.
And Anita? I really hope you'll be her friend too. Won't you? She'll need a good friend, she's so new to the place and so young.
I can't imagine your other half and me not being friends, Adrian.
I knew you'd see it like that. You're such a darling, Emma. And about the house. You'll help me, won't you?
I'll see what I can do, if you think my taste will suit Anita. But which house have you bought?
It's Dan Weaver's house up on the hill. Cat's Ladder. It's been on the market for less than a month. I'm sure you know it.
Yes, Emma knew it. Dan had named it Cat's Ladder because of the steep ravine behind it. She and Adrian had passed it on their hikes and admired it. Emma loved nice houses, and the Weaver place was a particular favorite of hers. And now she was to design its interior. But for whom? Anita.
I rushed off to buy it as soon as it was fixed with Anita. I just felt it belonged to her. I could see her in it. Oh, Emma, she's so beautiful.
I'm sure you wouldn't choose anyone who wasn't. What is she like? Tell me more about what she likes. I'll have to know something about her if I'm to furnish the house for her. But really, Adrian, wouldn't it be better to wait until she moves in with you? She may also want to do her own decor. I'm sure I wouldn't like another woman to furnish my house for me.
No. But Anita's different. She's only young, and she's always had everything done for her. She's one of the rich Somerset clerks, you know. And I don't want her bothered about these things. I've set my heart on getting the home all ready for her.
Carrying her in over the threshold, I suppose.
Yes, just that. As for her, she's blonde with beautiful sparkling hair and soft dark green eyes. I never knew how beautiful green eyes could be until I saw Anita.
And I'm to furnish Kat's ladder to suit that. When is the move?
In late August, I hope. That will give us time for a few weeks in Spain.
And this is the middle of May. 3 months. Well, I'll do my best, Adrian.
Thanks a lot, Emma. You've taken such a weight off my mind. A real star.
When Gemma came the next day, she found Emma singing by the window.
What's the matter, Emma?
Matter? Nothing's the matter. I'm just singing.
I know you. You never sing except when something's bothering you.
Nothing is bothering me. Nothing at all. I'm delighted and excited. I've a summer of pure delight ahead of me. I've promised to furnish a home for Adrian and his girlfriend, one of the Somerset clerks, you know. Who wouldn't sing over such a venture?
Oh, Emma. It's all right. You'll be all right. As they say, there are still plenty of fish in the sea.
Emma shut her door with a bang. No use arguing with Gemma. Gemma would never believe that her heart was buried with Phil. Emma had suddenly gone back to this belief herself. She went and looked at herself in the mirror. Well, she was not in the least like Anita Clark. She, Emma, was tall and black-haired for now at least. And she had brown eyes. Also, she certainly couldn't just be carried over anybody's threshold. She said to herself, Adrian is 42 and he is dating a baby. Evidently, even being a professor of economics at Clifton College doesn't make a man sensible enough in choosing a life partner. Well, laugh at yourself, Emma dear. This is the very time for your famous sense of humor. Sitting all dressed up on your 40th birthday, confidently expecting to be proposed to. And the man comes and asks you to furnish a house for his new girlfriend. It's one for the memes, Emma. It wasn't long before she met Adrian again, and Kat's ladder was forefront on both their minds.
I've seen many houses I liked. They were all okay. But when I saw this house, I knew I had to have it. You remember that evening a year ago, Emma, when we were out for a hike? We took the shortcut home and passed it. We both looked up together and saw it at the same time.
We recognized it although we'd never seen it before. I've always loved, a white and green house. Kat's ladder was even more charming than she remembered it. Houses with charm always thrilled Emma, they were so rare. What a view! The city spread far below, the college campus to the left, the beautiful tower of the Memorial Library against a soft and flushed evening sky, the dreamy hills to the right. And finally, that exquisite valley in between.
Some valleys are just so lovable, just looking gives immense pleasure. That valley is one of them. But that tree must come down, what do you think?
That lovely maple. Oh, you'd never cut that down.
I thought it rather spoils the view, don't you?
It doesn't. It simply guards it as a treasure. And can't you see what dignity, what beauty, what romance it lends to that corner? In fact, I am sure Anita will love that tree. Emma wasn't too sure of it really. She felt that green-eyed creatures never could love trees. But Adrian had no misgivings.
Oh yes, she will. So let's leave it. Come to think of it, it will be just the place to have breakfast on summer mornings. We'll have breakfast out of doors whenever possible. Look at that far hill over there, Emma. Doesn't it seem like an austere old man in this light? But at other times, it does grow rather mellow and lovable. We'll have a garden in that sunny corner. I'd love lots of flowers. White, pink, purple. The gardens in Somerset are full of them.
Will your lady of sparkling hair like an old-fashioned flower garden?
Oh, she loves everything beautiful.
Emma couldn't endure it all anymore, so she went inside to have a look over the interior. She hoped to be able to find lots of faults, things that would make it easy to let Adrian's girl have the house. But she couldn't find one. The sunny dining room with its French windows, shaded with a gorgeous wisteria bush. That was precisely Emma's idea of a dining room. The shadows on the walls created a serene tapestry when the sunlight fell through those leaves. The two-point fair scene from the east window made the living room come to life. And the most delightful feature, she thought, was that window on the stairs with the broad and deep seat. One could sit and look down into the ravine from there. It was not just a window, it was a personality.
Don't you think she'll love the view from this window? I'm glad all my windows have a beautiful view. There is something special to see from every one of them. I want her eyes to see nothing but beauty, wherever she looks out of our house.
Emma felt a bit irritated initially. But then she reflected that falling in love did have a tendency to make people sentimental. She was very tolerant, and then Cat's Ladder had such possibilities. She found herself taking a keen interest in them. To her surprise, the following weeks were full of fascination. Emma put out of her mind all thought of Anita, and she decided she would furnish Cat's Ladder to suit her own taste. There's no use trying to do anything else. I don't know Anita in spite of Adrian's raptures, and it is of no use doing up the house according to my hazy idea of her. When it comes to a question of tastes, Adrian must trust me fully or not at all. Adrian was very trusting. Beyond telling Emma she need not worry over prices, he interfered very little. She dragged him about everywhere hunting for things and they had some arguments, but Adrian always gave in. Emma had a nose for unusual finds. The old brass door knocker she found in an antique shop on the east side made her weep with joy. Adrian's old Persian rug, with the tree of life woven in it, went on the living room floor, although Adrian wanted to buy something new and bright. There was a beautiful old grandfather clock and an oak settee for the hall. Emma picked up antique picture frames and charming old blue platters. There was a Stuart table with twist-turned legs that Adrian's grandmother had had, and Emma insisted on putting his sea captain uncle's mahogany chest in the living room, although Adrian thought it should be smuggled out of sight in some back bedroom. They spent a whole afternoon exploring its drawers. Adrian had never thought of going through it before. Corals, pink and white, unspotted shells, feathers of strange tropical birds, seeds and nuts from mid-sea islands, ivory idols, wonderful embroideries. He was amazed. Isn't it delightful unpacking these old drawers? You don't know what we may come across. Oh, and what's this? Oh, Adrian. It's a little real pearl. An unpolished pearl. Isn't it just the sweetest of things?
I could have that set in a ring for Anita.
Emma had forgotten Anita in the wonders of that chest. She got up, a little pale and cross. She was tired. She had spent a whole afternoon shopping. She had found it fascinating to go into a big store and pick things up. Pretty things that just wanted to be taken away to be made part of a real home. She had spent several sleepless nights over Adrian's window curtains, but she thought the result justified the effort. Emma found she was still having too many sleepless nights, even when there were no more things left to buy. It was a hot summer and furniture hunting was strenuous work. Her nerves were going. Things were beginning to annoy her. For example, that light in Adrian's eyes whenever he talked of Anita. And also, that little gold cushion on the window seat. Adrian had bought that of his own accord. He told her that he wanted it because he could picture Anita's pale gold hair against its warm background. Emma hated it. She thought that it would in fact make golden hair look pale and faded. But Adrian stuck to his view this time, and so the cushion continued to glow like a small sun on the dark window seat. Emma's fingers tingled to hurl it down the ravine every time she saw it. Everything else she loved. And there was so much to love now. It was late July and Cat's Ladder was complete in every detail. Emma went over it. It annoyed her that its perfection will be wasted on a girl whose only conception of a house was a place to eat and sleep. She gathered from Adrian that Anita was fond of a good time. Adrian really talked too much about Anita. Under the circumstances, a little restraint would have been better. But Emma listened patiently and pretended to be sympathetic and understanding. In the end, she had a sense of deep satisfaction in something well done. So well done that it would be hard for even Anita to spoil it. Emma thought of another house she had been in that day. The chair coverings were too gaudy, pictures arranged horribly, lampshade choice unforgivable, the lighting all wrong, the rugs all wrong, the angles of the furniture all wrong. Emma shuddered and thanked heavens for Cat's Ladder. One hot July evening, she was lying listlessly on the sofa. She had been too tired to do her shabby face, and she looked pale and old, at least that's what she thought. Cat's Ladder is ready for your lady.
Oh, Emma. How can I ever thank you?
Don't bother. Why should you? I've had my fun out of it. I've really enjoyed doing up that place. When's the moving in, Adrian?
It's not quite settled yet. I'm expecting to know the final date any day now. I hope it will be soon. Emma, you look tired.
Dragged to death, as Gemma says. Bless her, she is so caring. You must remember, I'm over 40 now. People begin to get tired when youth is past. Alfie, why are you sitting there on your tail, grinning at me? Adrian, will Anita like Alfie? Will she let him bring his bones into the house?
I'm afraid dogs aren't Anita's thing. She seems a little afraid of them. I must get her a cat. She is fond of cats.
How will Alfie get on with a cat though?
I think he'll have to get used to it.
They say one can get used to everything, even to being hanged. I've never believed it. Poor little Alfie. Even a dog ought to have some rights, shouldn't he, Adrian? Do you think you are going to be fair to Alfie? Days passed. One fine blue evening, Adrian phoned up and asked Emma if she would meet him at Cat's Ladder around 8. He had something to tell her. She knew what it was, the date of his lady love moving in. Well, she wasn't interested. When you are horribly tired you can't care about anything else. But she made up her mind she would go up to Cat's Ladder at 7. She wanted to have one last hour of it before Adrian came. She wanted to say goodbye to it. Cat's Ladder had never looked so beautiful, so happy. Emma had never felt so close to it, so one with it. She loved it as much as she hated Anita. For she did hate Anita, she admitted that to herself at last. It was torture to think of Anita being the woman of Cat's Ladder, moving the furniture about, sitting by the fireplace, laughing at Alfie when everyone knew he couldn't bear to be laughed at, handling the dishes. Emma clenched her hands. She couldn't bear the thought of Anita handling the dishes. Suppose she, Emma, simply smashed them all now. Especially that beautiful teapot with the little golden roses on it. Anita shouldn't have that. Emma couldn't bear it, she would smash it anyhow. She ran to the mantelpiece and seized it. Then she saw herself in the mirror and set it back as it had been. Heavens, what a wretched old woman she was going to make. All alone with no interest in life. She hated Anita, beautiful Anita. Just at that moment, Emma could have easily handed her a poisoned potion.
Come out and see the sunset.
I've seen hundreds of sunsets. Is there anything special about this one? Emma asked grumpily. She had no intention of going out. She did not want to fake a smile again. She felt that if Adrian mentioned Anita again, her face would simply crack in two while trying to keep up that smile. Adrian came in and sat down beside her on the sofa. He did not say anything at first. And Emma wouldn't speak, or rather couldn't speak. She was horrified to find herself trembling, to find herself a boiling volcano of hate and rage, but also of hurt and despair. After Phil, she had been so sure that she could never feel deeply about anything again. But she hated Anita more savagely than ever. Anita, who was to have her house, and come to think of it, her man. Yes, her man. It was only after losing Adrian that she had realized that hidden tenderness in her heart. She had been resisting him not from dislike, but from the guilt of cheating Phil's memory. She realized just how happy she felt when Adrian was around. And would have Phil not wanted her to be happy?
Just think, Emma, in 2 more months she will be here. My little queen. It seems just too wonderful to be true. Emma, do you think that by any chance I'm only dreaming?
Now, that horrible phrase. Little queen. That phrase was just too much for Emma. It was the last straw and she lost her self-control. She stood up. Yes, I think you are, you absolute idiot. You are an idiot to think of courting a girl so young. A brainless and empty, beautiful little fool. She doesn't even have 2 ideas in her skull. Dreaming? Yes. And you'll wake up with terror when it's too late. And nobody will pity you then. Everybody will laugh at you.
Ah, now that's more like it. I think if you had kept up that smiling pose of sympathy for even 1 minute longer, I would have brained you with that brass stand. You don't know what narrow risks of assassination you've run this summer. As for Anita, I agree with you that she is too young for me. I've felt that all along. But don't call her brainless and empty. She is amazingly intelligent for a child who just turned 5 at her last birthday. She's my niece and really a darling, Emma. I'm sure you'll love her when we go to Somerset for Christmas.
Emma looked at Adrian. Adrian looked back with a cheeky grin.
God. I hate to explain. Still, it's bliss to finally tell the truth after my orgy of lies. I didn't forget your birthday, never have and never will. I had been thinking about it, about you, about us. And when Cat's Ladder came on the market, the first thing I could think of was how bright your eyes had been on seeing it. I knew I had to buy it. But I did tell you that Anita was a mere baby, didn't I? That much was true. And I had to do something, Emma, to show you that.
That, what I thought was true love was only a sentimental foolishness of yesterday.
No, but that you really did love me, if you would only let yourself see it. Remember, I had to fight a ghost. I was desperate. I realized that it was my last chance. I am sorry for the lies, but love does make one do desperate things. So, what say you, Emma? Cat's ladder is ready for its lady. And you are the only person in the world who can be that.
I really ought to hate you, Adrian. And throw Cat's ladder in your face. And leave you. But I can't. I just can't. Instead, I think I'm going to cry on your shoulder. We hoped you enjoyed listening to this story. Please check the description below for more short stories. Thanks for stopping by.